All right, before we get started on using the alcohol marker, one thing you guys are going to do is make sure that you have a placemat paper down on your table before you get started. These markers bleed through the paper. You want to make sure that you protect your work surface, okay? Also, you're going to choose 3 markers that are stair-stepped, okay? So what that means is you have one that's light, one that's a smidge darker than that, okay, by just a small amount, and then one that is darker than that. Okay, so I have 3 greens that are kind of 3 in a row, a light, a medium, and a dark. Okay, so I'm going to test those out for you on this piece of paper. Next thing that I wanted to share is you should have a colorless blender. Okay, it looks like this. All of these alcohol markers, depending on the brand, they range from about $4 to about $10. And this particular type is dual tipped. So what that means is this side has a chisel tip, okay, that has a flat edge that angles, and this side has a brush tip, okay, that comes to a point. You can do small lines and details with this. Most of the time, we're going to be using the chisel side of the marker, okay, because it covers more area. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to test my markers here at the top of my paper. If these are not working out, that is okay. So I have my light green here. Okay, I have my medium green here. And, yep, that's looking good. And then I have my darker green right here. Let's see if that works. Okay, not too shabby. Looks like my dark green's wearing out, okay? But you can kind of see already how I have a light, a medium, and a dark, and that seems to be working out pretty well, okay? Now, the first thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is I am going to, for my dark to light, I'm gonna do what's called priming the surface. Okay, what that means is I'm gonna take the chisel side of my colorless blender and I am going to coat it with the alcohol marker, okay? Okay, and I'm gonna do that for both of these, okay? In the interest of time, I'm not gonna do that with you all, okay? So what that does is it gives it a little bit more juice up front. Okay, then from there, I'm gonna take my lightest color, okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill it in over the whole surface, like so. Okay, it's back and forth, back and forth. Use that chisel side just so that you're using that thicker side of the marker. It coats a little bit more easily. Okay, so I have the first layer, okay. From there, I'm gonna take the medium marker, and from the opposite side I'm going to use the chisel side, and I'm going to blend it back about halfway. Okay, and then I'm going to take the brush tip and I'm going to feather it out. So feathering just means I'm going to make it look a little scratchy and then gradually fade it, kind of like so. Okay. Now at this point, this isn't really blending. I've got to do a couple more layers of the color that I just did. So for example, I'm going to come back with that lighter one, come back over top, give it another layer, and gradually the alcohol and pigment and the marker comes together, okay, like so. I'm going to deepen the edge of that. Okay. There we go. A little more of that lighter one. Okay, very nice. All right, not too bad. Okay, now for this next one, I'm actually going to try and do light to medium to dark. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prime that surface. Okay, using that chisel. Kind of wets the surface ahead of time, gives it a little bit more juice. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the chisel side of the lightest marker. Add that there over the whole thing. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing I did here. Using the chisel side of my medium marker. I'm gonna start it from the second side about halfway. I'm going to downgrade to the brush tip and gradually fade it out. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in over top, chisel side, one more, hello, uh-oh, I just messed it up, no! One more layer, don't do that, that was my darkest. One more layer of that light right in there. Okay, and then last but not least, I am going to bring in my darkest one that I accidentally put there. It's really bad, sorry y'all, okay? So I'm gonna bring my darkest one in from this side and fade it out right in here. Okay, and then I'm gonna add this on top. There we go, and blend it out. So you can kind of see how the dark one, oh my gosh, how the dark one really blends in there. Sorry that I added that there. Okay, not cool. Next thing I want to share with you before we do the other ones kind of on our own is I want to share with you the circles. So the circles, we're going to do the same sort of thing. We're going to try and make these look as realistic as possible. Okay, so we're going to add a layer of the chisel blender, kind of like so. Then we're going to use the chisel side of the lightest color. Chisel side of the lightest color, like so. I'm going to add that everywhere. Then I'm going to go from the lightest to the darkest. Now the darkest is going to go just around the outside. Okay. I'm going to use the brush tip. Just around the outside like so. I'm going to use the brush tip here and just create, it's almost like a crescent moon shape with the brush tip toward the bottom. Kind of like that. Okay. I'm going to add another layer of my light on the chisel right over that area. Kind of like so. Okay, from there, I'm going to go ahead and add my medium tone. Okay, so my medium tone looks like this. I'm going to use, I'm actually going to use the chisel to start. Okay, I'm going to go over my darkest, where my darkest and my medium sort of meet, and into that area where they overlap. So think this crescent moon shape, I'm just going over that with that chisel. Okay, and I'm going to downgrade at this point to my brush tip. Just add some near the top. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more of that brush right over there in that area. Okay. Last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and add the highlight here. So I'm going to actually use the blender and bleach out this little section right here for the highlight. And then I'm going to bring my light part in one more time around that highlight. There we go. Into that mid-tone again. Okay. Last but not least, I'm going to add one final layer, brush tip, dark part. Let's say you accidentally bleached out some of your dark part down here at the bottom. I did that here. Add that a little bit more back in. Okay. Like so.